Brian. This is a special one for you, coming out of sunny California. It's beautiful over here. See if I get you some views of the mountains. I don't know if you can see them over here, but just out the other way is a desert, and it is beautiful spending the holidays. So I've got a myriad of sticky notes from that last episode with Jim Delvin, and I wanted to just show you something else quickly over here. Working on a project. Let's see if you get that. So here's a PDF with the drawing. Open this up for you. See if you're in frame. Ooh. There we go. Open up wide. And we just did this on this is a design for a home. We're going to be doing a complete radiant setup in this. You can see here's dinettes, kitchen, living room, dining room, foyer, master area, guest area, garage. Really nice little setup over here. But anyway, let's get back to that episode because I really enjoyed that episode with Jim on the hybrid, what do you call that thing? On the hybrid boiler setup. And I want to get to my notes over here because there's a lot to it. Let's start off by saying that I've been in a high efficiency world for 12 years and I enjoyed a lot of little points that he put through, and I wanted to add a little bit to that. I've dealt everything up from the Series 1 Ultra boilers, which is the first series, or up to the third series. And I actually want to see if I can get in touch with Jim because I've had a little bit of an issue with their current control. One of them is a screen burning out, and then the other one is an issue with the outdoor reset. We're currently working on with a customer. So let's just start that Williamson and Wall McLean is one company, and I've used their boilers, their GSAs and their GWA boilers. The GS stands for steam and the GW is for water. They're 80 series boilers, I think that's what it's called, which are the large sectional boilers. We've used quite a bit of those. Over 1 million BTUs, we try to go with a welded boiler instead of a sectional boiler. The installation process of a sectional boiler that is cast iron could be troublesome, and I find that they don't last as long as the welded boilers. They definitely don't have the ability to be repaired. So further than that, by the way, this is a new shirt, turnupthecomfort.com. Got to get you one of those. Love the episode. So what are we going to hit first? Hybrid boilers. Well, it was a great one. And keeping things in service for as long as possible with adding one boiler to another boiler is definitely something that I go with. If you can keep existing equipment in there and get the length of the current equipment more lifespan out of it, that is generally something that we do. Not everything has to be replacement, but sometimes you want to make sure not to put the cart before the horse in either direction. There's no cookie cutter approach, as you know. Every different approach, every different job, there's no two jobs alike. But let's hit stainless steel versus aluminum. So aluminum is one of my big beefs with them are that nobody does any water treatment. And the lack of water treatment and aluminum don't go together. You get a lot of failures at a heat exchanger, which is why I, in the early days, stayed away from the Wall McLean system. The Wall McLean boiler as a whole, it seems to be more of a a lot of the boilers seem to be more of a the burner comes from the top. Some of their fans, if I remember, rotate. They sit on an axis flat instead of vertical. I'm not a fan of the ones that sit flat instead of vertical because the centrifugal part, the bearings stay a little bit better when they flat. They get a lot of thrust back and forth. Maybe they've solved some of those issues. I know Slantfin had those issues early on with those earlier boilers before the current one, which is made by NTI. So for me, the Wall McLean heat exchanger as a whole is not my favorite. It could be cleaned, which is why I like it over the fire tube design. Fire tube design also has a lot of welds, something I'm not too keen on. And as you know, or I may have mentioned, I'm back to a lot of the Giannone water tube designs for many of them, because if I can control my water side and I can keep my fire side clean, I'm in pretty good shape. And a lot of new Giannones use a very They're low mass, but they use a plastic outer style, so they've evolved a little bit. They're not the same Giannoni everybody else is used to. They've used O-rings, so the manifolds are kind of a moving. There's not a lot of welds in it, put it that way. So it's, in my opinion, less failure prone. When it does fail, possibly repaired in the field. So that's sticky note number 2. On to sticky note number 3. Was not aware that Weil-McLain had that control that allows them to control a cast iron boiler and a high efficiency boiler and turn off the high efficiency boiler when it does not see that it is going to be more efficient. In general, a lot of the savings is from turn down ratio, so cast iron boiler is going to be pretty good for a set it and forget it large load application, but once you're going to deal with an application which could benefit from turn down ratio, obviously, we're hitting so many different ends over here. We don't know if we're talking about a burner that's modulating in the cast iron boiler. We don't know if it's a burner that is a fixed rate or if it has a hot low high low, so has like a 2-stage burner, but definitely benefit from a turn down ratio, and one of the ways to benefit from a high turn down ratio is by using multiple boilers. So adding that cast iron boiler to a high efficiency boiler setup, or that high efficiency boiler to a cast iron boiler setup, gives you a lot of modularity and a lot of backup. Cast iron burner allows you to remove it in time of a crisis, such as medical facilities, and go ahead and put in an oil burner. Technically, boiler does have to be adjusted and the chimneys do have to be compatible, but you could go ahead and use a cast iron boiler and have the option for an oil burner on the moment. Another thing is that there's a boiler company out in Syracuse which I'm going to go visit. I don't remember their name. They invited me over there and they told me that I can come check out their system. They deal with a lot of health facilities, and they have a burner that is a single burner that allows natural gas and oil out of the same burner. So you could have a switchover period, either based off of a control or based off of a switch. A lot of the larger boilers, especially in the New York City area, my buddy Jay uses them. Uses what they call a dual fuel approach. Under a certain temperature, they have to go down to a oil only approach, no natural gas. So that's another sticky note. Big yes to use of hydraulic separation. Hydraulic separation is great. He mentioned that a lot in there, and I'm a big fan with the multiple T's on a system. Properly hydraulically separating the boilers is a great idea. This way you don't push water through an off boiler, like you said, and use it as a radiator up the chimney. Continued on with that, I like isolating the boiler from the system if possible on larger systems. So we'd put, ideally, we would take the... I
want Paw Patrol.
Okay, so I'm going to deal with it in a minute. Sorry about that. Spending the vacation.
How do you put on every day?
Yes. If you go color for a little bit, we'll take care of you.
Soon, because I'm just
so in short, you're relaxing? Good. I'm relaxing too. It's called vacation. So isolating the boilers, I'm a big fan of isolating the boilers from the system through a shell and tube heat exchanger of some sort. Ideally, that's usually done with a steam boiler that is a steam to water system. This way the building can run on water and you can have steam as the boiler plant. But I also like separating the boilers when we're dealing with a cast iron boiler, because the cast iron boiler does not like fresh water. So if you have any makeup water in the system, you can run into an issue with the boiler. And this will, isolating the boiler, having a boiler side of the system, a separator, not a hydraulic separator, but a physical separation by the heat exchanger, and then having a system side of the heat exchanger allows you to treat the water in the building and the water in the boiler independently and keep that cast iron boiler working for as long as possible. Another thing is I'm a big fan of preheating the cast iron boilers to prevent condensation on a large load. Say startup load, just thousands of gallons in the system, or a sustained load. The modulating condensing boiler can basically preheat the water for the cast iron. So to do that, I actually drew up a little drawing over here for you, and see if I can show that to you clearly. See if you got that in the snapshot, where you've got the boiler water leaving the boiler to the system and the water coming back to the cast iron boiler, and on the two closely spaced T's doing hydraulic separation, preheating the water to that cast iron boiler. That's one model to do. The only issue you run into is if you go ahead and you're not going to use that cast iron boiler, you better want to have a bypass, or you're going to create a big radiator and you're going to suck the heat out of it.
I'm not.
Continuing on over here, piping is always key. 2 high efficiency boilers doubles the turn down ratio. If you have 2 5-to-1 turn down ratio boilers, you double them together, you can get 10-to-1 turn down ratio. So depending on the system, depending on the redundancy, depending on the design, sometimes getting rid of that cast iron boiler altogether could be a big benefit. Again, he made a big point. You got to do the calculation. He did bring up that one story where putting 2 high efficiency boilers only saved roughly $2,000, and it was not worth it for the utility savings, but it did save them roughly 15 grand. Yes, you can, girl. Then throw it. Cast iron boiler, sometimes keeping one cast iron boiler could save them on the install cost. Savings is all dependent on excess air, and that depends if we're talking about a dry base boiler, which is the fire on the bottom that gravitates upwards, or you're dealing with a system that's a power burner that is pre-mixing the air with a fan and shoving it through the boiler. That makes a big difference on efficiency. And when you're talking about a 1,000,000 BTU boiler and you're 80% efficient or 82% efficient on a cast iron, instead of being 90% efficient possibly on the same boiler due to excess air with a high efficiency boiler or with a power burner, that could be a extra 100,000 BTUs sitting on the table that you're letting up the chimney. And again, 100,000 BTUs depends how many millions of BTUs you need. At some point, I'm a big fan of not a cast iron boiler, but rather than cast iron, going ahead with something like a steel boiler and using a modulating burner. You can pick up them from IC, you can pick them up from Power Flame. Pretty much anybody can make you a modulating burner, fully modulating. So that's what we got over here. Working down this, you can look into the Viessmann. Viessmann has a boiler in the residential market. I think it's called the 300 series, possibly the 300 CU or CU 300, and that is it's a great fit for a cast iron replacement. It has low pressure loss and high turn down ratio. Back on that, since I had to stand up for a moment, the low mass heat exchanger, high mass heat exchanger, which is a lot of water volume, and the low head loss due to the open design and the ability to run very high water temperatures through it. I think it's a 210 outlet max. Allows it's a pretty good replacement. Just something to think about. Viessmann should be somebody on the list that you reach out to. So, cast iron replacement. Viessmann has pretty good controls. You should take a look at them on the market. They have the ability to run different temperatures for every apartment in a building, and I think up to 999 different temperatures. A daisy chaining the controls. So they are the only company that I know other than Wall McLean that offers some in-house controls. Lachenvar, everybody's got their own little turn on it, but Viessmann's really the king. And from what I heard on that episode, the Wall McLean control is pretty good. Okay, continuing on over here, on to the last sticky note. And I could have made many more, but this is only a review video, and I really enjoy. It's a review video on that podcast that I really enjoyed. So I disagree slightly. If I understood correctly, you said that a condensing boiler that does not condense is going to be dirty inside. And actually, my personal findings from working day to day in the field is boilers that don't condense actually stay a lot cleaner. They don't have all the buildup on the heat exchanger, and sometimes that is appreciable. Condensing is not the only reason I put in condensing boilers. I put it in for the modulation feature, and I find the boilers save an enormous amount of money for people on the modulation feature. Obviously, design is proper. You want buffer capacity, you want long run cycles, all that other stuff. But overall, I find the condensing boilers, the boilers that condense often, generally stay dirtier. Again, it depends on many factors: your fuel factor, your air quality factor, your combustion analysis. Are you tuned correctly? Couple other things, and you know me, calculation is key. I don't have any cookie cutter things. I kind of have a little bit of an affinity to market. I've been dealing all the way back from the Munchkin days and the Peerless days of high efficiency boilers, way before anybody was really on the market. There were 2, 3 products out there. And like he said, I mean, the big thing that you know about me is the key is calculations. You got to do the calculations, you got to do the numbers, and no two systems are run identical. That's pretty much it. Enjoy the view for another moment. Looks like somebody's rolling a beach ball by. But in any case, enjoy your day. And Bryan, looking forward to doing some more podcasts with you, and looking forward to meeting you personally. We're going to take a couple big jobs happening in the next couple days, the next couple weeks. We'd love for you to come down to New York from Florida and join us, watch what we do.